Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started.
Today, we're tackling something you're definitely seeing more and more of. Drones, specifically drones in Canadian skies. Our focus. Getting your Canadian Basic Remotely Piloted Aircraft System, or, RPAS pilot certificate. What exactly do you need to wrap your head around for that?
Yeah, well, we've really dug through the official word from Transport Canada, the definitions, study checklists, exam details, even a practice exam, to basically distill the core knowledge. Think of this as maybe the essential guide to flying safely and legally with that basic certificate here in Canada.
Exactly. We're kind of on a mission here to cut through any potential overwhelm and give you a really solid grasp of the must-knows. Okay, so let's start with the language, some key terms. When we say RPAS, what are we actually talking about?
Good place to start. RPAS, like you said, Remotely Piloted Aircraft System. It's the whole package, really.
The whole package.
Yeah, the drone itself, sometimes called the RPA, Remotely Piloted Aircraft, and the control station, the remote the pilot uses. Now, you might hear UAS too, Unmanned Aircraft System. That's more common down south, maybe.
Right.
But here in Canada, RPAS is the official term you'll find in the regulations. So RPAS, that's the Canadian way to refer to the whole drone operation.
Got it. RPAS it is. Now, one of the first big distinctions, it seems, is VLOS versus BVLOS. For someone going for the basic certificate, what's the absolute critical difference there?
Oh, that's fundamental. Absolutely. Yeah. VLOS means visual line of sight.
Okay.
And in practice, that means the pilot has to be able to see the drone with their own eyes all the time during the entire flight.
So no screens or binoculars counting.
Exactly. No relying only on the video feed or binoculars to keep track of it. You need direct visual contact. For basic certificate holders, VLOS is, it's a hard rule, non-negotiable.
Right.
BVLOS, on the other hand, beyond visual line of sight, that's flying when you can't see the drone directly.
Which sounds more complex.
It is. It carries different risks, more complexity, which is why it's strictly for advanced certificate holders, not basic. So, key takeaway. Basic means eyes on the drone. Always.
Okay, always keep it in sight. Makes sense, yeah, from a safety angle. Now, when that drone's up there, who's actually, legally on the hook for how it's being flown?
That responsibility, it falls squarely on the pilot in command.
Pilot in command, okay.
That's the individual who is legally accountable for the safe operation of the RPAS during that flight. Even if, say, someone else is physically flying it for a moment, the pilot in command still holds that ultimate legal responsibility, making sure everything's by the book, done safely. It really highlights how serious that role is.
Definitely. Puts the weight there.
Yeah.
Now, what about those smaller drones, the ones maybe kids are flying at a park? Do they fall under these same RPAS rules we're discussing for the basic certificate?
That's a good question. It helps clarify things. There's a distinction with what's called a model aircraft. Usually, a model aircraft is used purely for fun, recreation or sport. And while there might be some general safety guidelines, the specific basic certificate requirements we're talking about are generally aimed at drones used for other purposes, even if there's some fun involved.
But there's a key factor, right? The weight.
Exactly. Weight is crucial. Regardless of use, any drone that weighs between 250 grams and 25 kilograms must be registered. And the pilot operating it almost certainly needs a certificate, whether it's basic or advanced. So the weight often triggers the need for registration and certification, not just why you're flying it.
Interesting. So weight is a big decider. And one last term for now. Drones carry stuff.
Yeah.
Cameras, sensors. What's the official term for whatever the drone is carrying?
That's called the payload.
Payload.
Right. Yeah.
Any equipment the drone carries during flight? Camera, sensors, maybe small packages for delivery tests, whatever. And the payload's weight is critical, obviously.
Why is that? Because it affects the drone's total weight, its performance, how it handles. It absolutely has to be within the manufacturer's specified limits for safe operation. It's part of that essential pre-flight planning.
Payload, anything it's carrying. Got it. Okay. We've got some key terms down. Now, let's shift to where these things can fly. Canadian airspace. Sounds complicated. Where can someone with just a basic certificate actually legally fly?
It can seem like a maze, yeah. Canadian airspace is structured into different classes, A through G.
A to G. Okay.
For basic certificate holders, the most important one to know inside out is Class G airspace.
Class G.
Right. That's uncontrolled airspace. What that means is air traffic control, or ATC, isn't actively directing or separating aircraft within it.
So less traffic management.
Essentially, yeah.
No.
And as a basic operator, your flights are generally permitted in Class G airspace. Think of it as the default zone where you can fly, as long as you meet all the other rules, of course.
Okay, so Class P is the go zone for basic. What about the others then? Like classes C, D, E? What do basic pilots need to know about those?
Those are all types of controlled airspace.
Controlled, meaning?
Meaning ATC is actively managing traffic, providing separation services, directing planes. It's much busier, more complex. Operating in C, D, or E airspace usually requires an advanced certificate. And often, even with an advanced certificate, you need specific clearance from ATC before you can even enter that airspace. So the clear guideline for basic is know where Class G is and stay out of the controlled stuff. It's a fundamental limit of the basic certificate.
Got it. Steer clear of controlled zones. Now, I hear pilots mention NOTAMs. What exactly are NOTAMs, and why should a drone pilot bother checking them?
NOTAM, it stands for Notice to Air Missions.
Okay.
Think of them as time-sensitive alerts, essential info about potential hazards, maybe temporary flight restrictions, changes to airspace, stuff that could impact flight safety.
So pretty important then.
Absolutely crucial. Checking NOTAMs before every flight is a must. A NOTAM could tell you about, say, a temporary restriction over an area because of an event, or maybe new construction, a crane that wasn't there before. It's dynamic info. It changes.
Right, like checking traffic or road closures before driving, but for the sky. Makes total sense. And VNC charts often come up too. What are those in the drone context?
VNC stands for VFR Navigation Chart. VFR meaning Visual Flight Rules.
Which applies to drone pilots using VLOS.
Exactly. These are specialized maps made for pilots flying visually. They show airspace boundaries crucial for knowing where Class G ends and controlled airspace begins. They also show landmarks, terrain, potential obstacles like towers, restricted areas.
This is the detailed sky maps.
Pretty much. While lots of people use digital tools now, and they're great, having a basic understanding of how to read a VNC chart is still considered, foundational aviation knowledge for all pilots, drone pilots included.
Okay, good to know. And one more thing on location and height. I see AGL and ASL used, above ground level and above sea level. What's the difference? And why do drone pilots need to care about both?
Yeah, that's an important one. AGL, above ground level, is your drone's height measured straight down to the ground directly beneath it.
Okay, height above the immediate ground.
Right. Fly at 100 feet AGL over a field, you're 100 feet above that field. ASL, above sea level, is your altitude measured from the average sea level.
And why both?
Well, operational limits for drones, like the maximum height for basic ops, 122 meters or 400 feet, that's usually given in AGL.
Right.
But airspace boundaries like the floor of controlled airspace above you, that might be defined in ASL.
I see.
So you need to be aware of both. You could be flying low AGL over a mountain, but actually be quite high ASL, potentially nearing controlled airspace. You have to consider both to be safe and legal.
That AGL versus ASL difference is really key then. Height above ground versus height from the sea.
Got it.
Okay, let's switch gears. Something that affects all flying. Weather. What are the absolute must-know weather concepts for a basic drone pilot?
Weather literacy is non-negotiable for drone pilots, really. Two main info sources you need to understand are METARs and TAFs.
METARs and TAFs.
Yeah. A meteorological aerodrome report is like a snapshot. Current weather conditions right now at an airport or reporting station. Wind, visibility, clouds, temperature.
Okay, the now report.
Exactly. And a TAF, terminal aerodrome forecast, that's the prediction. Expected weather around an airport, usually for the next 24, maybe 30 hours. Learning to decode these is fundamental. It directly impacts if and how you can fly safely.
METAR for now, TAF for later. Makes sense. What specific weather phenomena should be immediate red flags, like absolutely no flying?
Cumulonimbus clouds, big time hazard.
Those big towering storm clouds.
Exactly, the dark, angry-looking ones. They can generate severe turbulence, lightning, heavy rain, hail. All really bad news for a small drone. You need to give them a very wide berth. Avoid flying anywhere near them.
Okay, stay far away from cumulonimbus. What else?
Low visibility is critical too. It'll be in the METAR. If visibility drops too low, you can't maintain that visual line of sight we talked about.
Which makes the flight illegal and unsafe.
Precisely.
What about things like fog? Or even just dew? Are those concerns?
Yes, definitely. Fog obviously kills visibility. If it drops below the legal minimum, generally 3 statute miles in Canada for basic ops, you can't fly VLOS safely or legally.
Right.
And dew point is important too. That's the temperature where air gets saturated, right? If the actual temperature drops to the dew point, you get fog or condensation.
Condensation on the drone.
Yeah, potentially on the electronics, the lens, that can cause malfunctions, even failure. So understanding that temperature-dew point relationship helps you anticipate fog and maybe equipment risks.
Okay, weather is clearly a huge factor. Now let's talk about the steps before launch. What needs to happen to ensure safe flight operations? What are those essential pre-flight steps?
Before anything else, before you even power up the drone, a thorough site survey is essential.
Site survey, what does that involve?
It means actually looking at the area where you plan to fly. You need to check the airspace again. Are you sure you're in Class G, clear of controlled zones, any temporary restrictions?
Okay, airspace check.
Then look for people. Are there bystanders? Could people wander into your flight area? What about obstacles, trees, buildings, power lines?
Right, things you could hit.
Exactly. And critically, check the current weather conditions right there, right then. Not just the forecast from earlier, but what's happening now. It can change fast.
Site survey. Airspace, people, obstacles, current weather. Got it. What's next?
After the site survey, right before you actually turn the drone on, you absolutely must use a pre-flight checklist.
A checklist, like airline pilots use.
Precisely. A standardized list. You verify the drone itself, the batteries are charged, controllers working, props are okay, all equipment is functioning. You check, you have your documents, certificate registration, you confirm you're aware of the conditions. It's a critical step. Catches problems before they cause accidents.
Checklists. Vital safety habit. Now, many drones have that return to home feature, RTH. How important is that as a backup?
RTH is a very valuable safety net, no doubt.
How does it work, basically?
If the drone loses signal with the controller or the battery gets critically low, RTH can automatically fly the drone back to a preset home point, usually where you took off.
Sounds great.
It is, but you have to understand its limitations. What if an obstacle popped up after you took off? The drone sensors might not see it. GPS accuracy can vary too.
So don't rely on it blindly.
Never. You should always be ready to take manual control if needed. RTH is a backup plan, not a guarantee.
Good point. Backup, not autopilot. What about geofencing? Setting up a virtual boundary, how does that help?
No. Geofencing is a really useful tool. It's a software boundary you set up in the Drones app. You can define an area, and the software can prevent the drone from flying outside of it or into restricted airspace nearby. It helps you stay legal, stay within your planned area, and helps prevent the drone just, flying too far away. It's proactive safety.
A digital fence. Sounds smart. Now, the scary term, flyaway. What exactly is a flyaway situation?
A flyaway is basically when the drone stops responding to your commands and just flies off uncontrollably.
Yikes. Why does that happen?
Could be several reasons. Signal loss, a major technical malfunction, GPS errors, maybe even really strong unexpected wind that overpowers it.
How do you prevent that?
Thorough pre-flight checks are key. Maintaining constant situational awareness during the flight and being ready, always ready, to switch to manual control if things seem off. Those are your best defenses against a flyaway.
Okay, be vigilant. And one last thing for this part, flight logs. Why is keeping a log considered good practice?
Keeping a flight log, just a record of your flights, is highly recommended. It's really beneficial.
What do you put in it?
Things like date, time, flight duration, location, maybe notes on any issues or unusual things that happened, maintenance done on the drone.
And why is that useful?
It helps you track your drone's health, spot recurring problems, and importantly, if there's ever an incident or an inspection, having detailed logs can be invaluable. Good record keeping.
Makes sense. Track your operations. Okay, let's move from the tech and rules to the person holding the controls, the human element. What are the key human factors drone pilots absolutely need to understand?
Situational awareness, that's number one, absolutely paramount.
What does that mean in practice?
It's your ability to constantly perceive and understand what's happening around your drone, knowing its position, its altitude, being aware of other aircraft, obstacles, the weather, and anticipating potential problems before they happen.
So staying mentally engaged the whole time.
Exactly. It's a continuous mental process. Losing situational awareness can lead to dangerous situations very, very quickly.
Okay, stay sharp. What about just being tired or stressed out? How does that play into it?
Fatigue is a huge factor, just like for airline pilots. It seriously impairs judgment, slows reaction times, makes you much more prone to errors.
Yeah, I can see that.
And stress does similar things, affects focus, decision-making. It's crucial to recognize the signs of fatigue or high stress in yourself.
And what do you do if you recognize them?
You make the responsible call. You don't fly. If you're not feeling mentally and physically up to it, stay grounded. Your well-being is directly linked to flight safety.
Good advice for any high-stakes activity, really. I've also seen the term aeronautical decision-making, ADM. What's that about for drone pilots?
ADM, aeronautical decision-making. It's essentially a systematic way to think about safety and make good choices when you're flying.
System for making decisions.
Yeah, a framework. It helps you assess risks, consider different options, and choose the safest course of action, especially when things don't go as planned or get stressful.
How does it work?
It involves steps like recognizing there is potential hazard, evaluating how risky it actually is, and then deciding on and implementing strategies to manage or mitigate that risk. It's structured, proactive thinking about safety.
A clear process for good judgment. Makes sense. And lastly, on the human side, is there like a pre-flight check for the pilot themselves?
Absolutely. Just as vital as checking the drone is doing a quick pre-flight self-assessment.
What does that involve?
Honestly, evaluating your own condition. Are you alert? Rested enough? Feeling unwell? Are you under the influence of anything, medication, alcohol that could impair you? Being totally honest with yourself about your fitness to fly before you even start is fundamental.
Right. Check yourself before you wreck yourself or the drone. Okay, human factors covered. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of getting that basic drone pilot certificate. The exam itself, what's the format like? What should someone expect?
Okay, the exam. It's online, multiple choice.
Online, okay.
35 questions total. You get 90 minutes to complete it.
90 minutes for 35 questions. Seems reasonable.
Yeah. And the passing score is 65%, so you need to get at least 23 questions right.
65%, 23 correct. What about cost and retries?
It costs $10 each time you take the exam. And the good news is, right now, there's no limit on how many times you can retake it if you don't pass the first time.
Okay, $10 an attempt. Keep trying till you pass. Got it. What's the main study guide? The number one resource people should use?
The single most important resource, bar none, is Transport Canada's official guide, TP 15263 Knowledge Requirements for RPAS Pilots.
TP 15263.
That document covers everything, all the topics on the exam. Downloading it, reading it thoroughly, that has to be your top priority. It's the roadmap.
The drone pilot's Bible for the basic exam. Got it. How is that guide, TP 15263, structured? What are the main areas someone needs to focus on?
It breaks down into 5 core knowledge areas, which mirrors the exam. First up is air law and RPAS regulations.
The rules.
Exactly. Understanding the Canadian aviation regulations, especially Part 9, which is all about RPAS, you need to know registration rules that 250 gram to 25 kilogram range.
Right.
Your responsibilities as pilot in command, and those key flight limits, like the 30-meter distance from bystanders.
Horizontal distance, yeah.
And the 5.6 kilometer or 3 nautical mile keep-out zone around airports. Plus, how to report incidents.
Okay, know the laws, know the limits. What's area number 2?
Second area is meteorology, weather stuff.
We touched on that.
Yeah, being able to read those meters and tachs we mentioned, understanding how wind, temperature, pressure affect drone performance and safety, and recognizing hazardous conditions.
So,
fog, thunderstorms, icing risks.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Understand weather's impact. Third area.
Navigation and airspace. This covers those airspace classes, A through G. You need a solid grasp of Class G where you can fly.
Uncontrolled.
And also awareness of Class C, controlled airspace, which is generally off limits for basic. You also need to know how to use VNC charts and those digital tools like NAV drone or the drone site selection tool.
For checking airspace.
Right. And NOTAMs fall in here too, along with understanding how to do a proper site survey.
Okay, knowing where you are, where you can be, and how to check. Fourth area.
Fourth is RPAS general knowledge and operations. This is more the practical side.
Flying the drone itself?
Kind of. Knowing how to use that pre-flight checklist properly, basic flight principles, understanding fail-safes like return to home, what they do, their limits, what to do if you lose GPS signal.
Like switching to manual.
Exactly. Battery safety is huge here too. basic maintenance awareness, understanding your specific drone's limitations.
Practical stuff, knowing your gear.
Yeah.
And the fifth and final area,
The last one is human factors.
which we just discussed.
Right. Recognizing and managing things like fatigue, stress, poor decision-making, the importance of maintaining situational awareness, and that personal pre-flight fitness check, the human side of safe flying.
Okay, so law, weather, airspace navigation, drone knowledge, and human factors. Seems comprehensive. Any top tips for actually preparing for this exam? How to study effectively?
Practice exams. That's probably the biggest thing. Find as many practice tests as you can. Aim to consistently score, say, 80% or higher on those before you try the real thing.
Why 80% if the pass is 65%?
Gives you a buffer. And it shows you really know the material, not just scraping by. It also helps you find your weak spots, areas you need to review more in TP 15263.
Makes sense.
And try to simulate exam conditions. Quiet room. Set a 90-minute timer. Get used to the pressure, the question format, and obviously, no TP 15263 inside out. Read it, highlight, take notes, review.
Solid advice. Practice, simulate, know the source material. What about the actual day you take the online exam? Any practical tips for that process?
Okay, first, make sure your tech is ready. You need that GC key or sign-in partner login for the Transport Canada portal.
Right, the government login.
Make sure your drone is registered if it needs to be, 250G, 25 kilograms. Have a stable internet connection. Find a quiet spot, no interruptions. Have your payment method ready for the $10 fee.
Okay, what about using the study guide during the exam? Is it open book?
Technically, yes, it's open book. But realistically, with 90 minutes for 35 questions, you do not have time to look up every answer, or even many answers.
Don't rely on that.
No. The best way to use it is if you're stuck on a very specific term or regulation, you might be able to quickly find it if you know the document well. Familiarize yourself with the layout of TP 15263 before the exam so you can navigate it quickly if needed. But focus on knowing the material first.
Got it. Prepare tech, space, payment, and know the material well enough not to need the book much. What happens right after you pass?
Well, congratulations. You should get your digital basic operations pilot certificate pretty much instantly through the portal.
Oh, right away.
Yeah. Make sure you save it, print a copy, save the file electronically. You must have it with you along with your drone registration document whenever you fly.
Certificate and registration, always carry them.
Always. And remember, passing the test is just the start. The real goal is continuous, safe, and legal flying. The certificate is your license to learn and operate responsibly.
Continuous learning, safe skies. Good reminder. Okay, let's just quickly hammer home some of the absolute key rules and limits for basic operations, the non-negotiables.
Right, the big ones, basic ops. Strictly Class G, uncontrolled airspace only.
Class G only.
Minimum 30 meters, about 100 feet horizontal distance from bystanders, people not involved in your flight.
30 meters from people.
Absolutely never fly directly over people. Prohibited for basic.
No flying over crowds?
Definitely not. Also, stay away from airports, 5.6 kilometers, heliports, and controlled airspace. You need an advanced certificate for that.
Keep clear of air traffic hub.
Maximum altitude, 122 meters or 400 feet AGL above ground level.
400 feet AGL max height.
Always, always maintain visual line of sight, VLOS, eyes on the drone.
VLOS is mandatory.
And you cannot enter restricted airspace, period. Those are the core limits you live by with a basic certificate.
Uncontrolled airspace, 30 meters from people, never over people, away from airports, under 400-foot AGL, VLOS, always. No restricted zones.
Got it. Okay, finally, let's wrap with some practical tips and maybe tools for new basic pilots. Stuff to help fly safely and legally day to day.
Absolutely. First, use the available tools. The NAV Canada Drone Site Selection tool is great. There are other apps too, like Drone Pilot Canada or similar ones. Use them regularly.
What do they help with?
Checking airspace classifications quickly, getting current NOTAMs, verifying if an area is legal to fly in before you even go there. Invaluable.
Okay, use the digital tools. What else?
Battery awareness, especially in cold weather. Cold temps can drastically cut battery life and flight time. Know your drone's limits.
Good point about cold weather.
Practice switching to manual control in case you lose GPS signal. Know how to fly it without the GPS assistance.
Manual skills. Important backup.
Drone insurance. It's not legally required for basic ops, but it's strongly recommended. Protect yourself against liability, damage.
Consider insurance. Makes sense. Remember the alcohol rule. 0 tolerance. No drinking within at least 12 hours of flying.
12 hours bottle to throttle.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Be very mindful of wind limits. Check your drone's manual. A general guide might be under 30 kilometer, but it varies a lot by drone model.
Know your drone's wind limits.
Night flying. It is permitted with a basic certificate if you can still maintain VLOS and your drone has working position lights so you can see it clearly.
Night flying, okay with lights and VLOS.
And lastly, if you encounter weird interference, electromagnetic interference affecting control, move away from the suspected source immediately. Try to regain stable connection.
Move away from interference. Great list of practical tips. Okay, so just to quickly recap the whole thing. For the basic RPAS exam, and just for flying safely, you need to nail down regulations, airspace, weather, operations, and those crucial human factors.
Exactly. And understanding these fundamentals isn't just about passing a test. It's about operating safely and responsibly in Canadian skies, protecting yourself, others on the ground, and other aircraft.
Definitely. And, with this foundational knowledge, it really does open up a new way to see things, doesn't it? So for you, our listener, what new perspectives might having this ability to safely fly a drone unlock? And maybe for the questions does this spark about aviation, technology, what's next? Something to think about.
That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.